many IoT devices that we have in CERN and how many of them are unsecure that we actually need to look about. So these are the stats that we figured out, and there are approximately 900 IoT devices inside CERN. And we classified 3 types of categories in that, which were like not configured, which were like 100 devices, 118 which were easily vulnerable, and I'll show you the examples what I mean by easily vulnerable and medium vulnerable and not configured. And these are different types of devices that we have in CERN. There are IoT devices like the PLCs, CCTVs, oscilloscopes, and others. So non-configured devices, it's like the routers, the switches that we have, they don't even have admin passwords set up. Then these are NAS, which we have in CERN, which are like, okay, you can set up your own password like you can see here. Then easily vulnerable devices are like which have the default passwords and people do not change it. I don't know why, but they don't. And these are the IP phones that we have inside CERN, and they're not at all like secure, and they just have the normal user credentials. These are the projectors like this one, and the oscilloscopes that are used in experiments. And this is again a personal NAS by someone. This is the microphones that you have here actually. And this is a PLC, which is also not secure again. Then the medium vulnerable devices are basically which we have exploits, and we just use the exploits and just go through it. So this is a number plate reader inside CERN, and that's a printer. So these all are vulnerable. And we have many more screenshots of these devices, but I don't have that much time to tell about it. So yes, there are no proper standards that we have for IoT security as such till now. And there are drafts which come every year by Switch and other organizations, but still we don't have any perfect security standards for IoT. So this is not the only thing that we are doing just to check and do vulnerability assessment for IoT devices, but we are also developing a tool which can actually detect IoT devices on the network and tell you more about the devices, like the model, the manufacturer, the firmwares that you're using. And how we did that is basically scan the whole GPN range inside CERN and then scrapping the whole websites of each and every IoT device website that they have. And we tried a lot of things for that, but the final solution that came out was Selenium, which was the best thing that worked because of JavaScript rendering. And then we have to analyze a lot of web pages manually and before making the whole tool, because just by seeing the web pages, you can actually figure out which firmware that IoT device is running on. And then we basically constructed a tool, which I'll just show you an example. I have a screenshot of that, how it works. And you just need to give an IP address, and the tool just gives you each and every information, like which device it is, what firmware it is working on, what's the model, and the classifiers that we use on the web page to detect what device it is. So what we plan to do with this tool is basically to get the security risk associated with it, because we go and look for the firmware detection for it. So when we know the firmwares, we get to know how these firmwares are and how secure the firmwares are. And through that, we will hopefully get to know how secure these devices will be if they don't even have normal vulnerabilities, but maybe through the firmwares. And that's it.
Thank you very much for the talk. Questions? Well, if not, I'll start with one. So do you see this thing improving over time? So do you see manufacturers trying to do something, or they just don't care?
Yeah, so as I told you, there are actually no proper standards even for the manufacturers that they are making the devices. So the firmwares, every few times there is a new firmware update that comes up, but then again, there are some or the other firmware vulnerabilities that are found inside it, and then you can again go inside the IoT device.
And then how fast do people patch, or do they fix if possible at CERN?
At CERN, we are trying to do from our side, getting to all the people. We have a tool which has been developed by the SOC, and we tell them and report the devices, but the response that I get after reporting a device is like 3 out of 6 devices reported get answered to me, not even mitigated, but just answered to me in like a month's time. So that's the response.
There's still time to play. Daniel, had a question?
I think the question you already answered. So if you plan to keep track of which firmware is installed where and when it was updated, but I think this you answered already.
Any other questions? No? Then let's thank our speaker again. Thank you.